All right, y'all. Look, welcome back. We got something special today.
All
So
right, all right.
just right off top, Alex.
We're talking about Spike Lee's School Daze. Spike Lee joint, his second major film. Actually, the film that he after she had got to have it. He took the money that was grossed from that and actually made his company 40 Acres and a Mule production company and made this masterpiece, man. And it is a masterpiece, man. I mean, everybody has different things they want to say about the film, but yeah, it definitely put a lot of people on the map. People that have seen the film have probably noticed a lot of people that they follow nowadays in their beginnings. You got Larry
Yeah.
Fishburne. You got of course Spike was in it. You've got a whole bunch of other people, man, that were in the
A whole
film.
bunch, man.
Um,
Yeah. Jasmine
right.
Guy, man.
Jasmine Guy,
Tisha
Tisha Campbell,
Campbell. And, oh, yeah.
Kadeem Hardison,
Bill Nunn.
Exodus, Bill Nunn. Yeah, Bill was in there. It's like a reunion, man, of a
Yeah.
lot of films that we've already done. You know,
Yeah.
um, but I want
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
basically get into the synopsis of the film before we even start talking about actors, actresses, and plots and stuff like that. But the
Yeah.
basis of the film, it's a college film based on a fictitious black college called Mission College. Um, and I'd say the foundation of the plot is we've got a guy named Vaughn, and they call him Dap, and he is kind of like more of a revolutionary. He's protesting and kind of like an activist against apartheid. Of course, we know apartheid, back in the day was
Mhm.
like the segregation, a process of policy of segregation that was used in South Africa. And his big thing was he wanted Mission College to divest, all of their funds and anything that was affiliated with apartheid, because the other colleges were doing it. And of course, you're a
Mhm.
student at a college, you're making a ruckus, you're disrupting classes and stuff like that with your protests, and you're doing things that the people that are investing in the college, are it could spook them.
There it
Yeah,
is.
people like them don't like to be told what to do with their money.
So that was kind of like a no-no for as far as the college wise. And then with that foundation, you have a whole bunch of other
Yeah.
issues within the black community, and a black college. This college was modeled after Morehouse or Hampton or Virginia State, and it just kind of shows us a lot of the things that we were going through as far as like issues within our society, black
Mhm.
community and whatnot. So, and a lot of those issues, I think, because of that, a lot of people were, kind of they were rubbed the wrong way, or they kind of might mistake this film for something. Where basically, I think I've always thought that Spike's films are, you go to see them, you take
Yeah.
home what you can, and you keep it moving. If a light bulb comes on, that's good for you. You know what I'm saying? But Spike, he's always been opinionated. He's going to put his thing out there, and
Yeah.
then you take home what you can take home from it, and that's it. That's the basis of the film. But initial thoughts, man, before we get started, what did you think about the film? Like what, general, like what do you think about it?
Let me give you my okay. First of all, just on a viewing basis, it's a good
Hmm.
movie.
Right.
I wouldn't put it in my like top tier. I wouldn't even put it in like my top 3 Spike Lee movies, though. Just personally, like
Right.
for me, number one is Malcolm X. Period.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
Definitely.
what you have to understand is that like I, when this movie came out, I was 10.
Yeah.
So it came out like you said early '88. My birthday's in January, so I had just turned 10 when this movie came out,
Yep.
and I was living in Alaska.
Mm.
I was living in Anchorage, Alaska. So one, you didn't get some of the movies that you might have got in other parts of the country. So like a movie like School Days, I don't remember, and we used to go to the movies quite a bit in Alaska.
Yeah.
First of all, my parents wouldn't have took me to see the School Days to begin with, but I don't even remember it coming out
Not this
or
one.
being at a theater locally. It may have been. Yeah, it may have been. I don't know, but I don't remember. And I remember a lot when it comes to movies. So
Right.
that being said, I could swear I remembered seeing this movie like kind of 88, 89-ish. Rewatching this movie, or actually watching it, I realized this is the first time I'd actually seen it all the way through. It dawned on me, actually before, when we first talked about doing this movie, it dawned on me that this movie came out at the perfect time for me not to care about it in my life. So like, let me explain. I was 10.
Yeah.
So like, still in elementary school, not in the least, and I was living in Anchorage, Alaska, not in the least thinking about college life, black colleges, because I hardly knew anything about black colleges then.
Right.
And, for somebody like my sister who's older than me, this movie would have meant more to her than it did to me.
Right.
Because at the time, I'm like into like action movies and, cartoons and shit like that, Ninja Turtles and whatnot.
Right.
So a movie like about college life had absolutely no appeal to me whatsoever.
I understand.
And it makes sense to me why like I had never actually seen it. So I was like, oh man, like this is why, this is the reason I've never actually seen this movie. Like it came out at the time. Let me give another example real quick. There's a lot of people who are like even my age or maybe a little bit younger who have like fond, especially like maybe 4 or 5 years younger than me, who have fond memories of The Little Mermaid. You know what I'm saying? That movie came out like 89. When the thing I could care about the least was a cartoon about a mermaid.
Yeah.
I've never actually watched that entire movie. Lion King came out at the perfect time for me not to care about it.
Right.
I had a job. Right. I was working at Busch Gardens when that movie came out. I didn't care about some animated, you know what I'm saying? So when people are like, oh, you don't like Lion King? I was like, bro, I've never seen that whole movie, ever. Because it came out at the perfect time for me not to care about it. That's what I would have to say about School Days. It just came out at a time where it just wasn't something I wanted to see at all.
Yeah.
My only memory of this movie, when I see it, is the EU performance.
On the backside, we get the butt till it makes me sore. Now,
of doing the butt.
Right.
So I used to love that song, and I realized like that's my only memory of this movie, like that performance and that song.
Right.
So yeah, like it's one of those movies that like I understand the appeal, understand why people love it. It's just one of those movies like I can't say that I do because I have no nostalgia for it, like whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's like somebody a younger person playing a Nintendo game that we love, playing freaking Contra or something now. It's the first time they've ever played it. Like they can't understand what it was like when it came out.
Right. They don't get the impact.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right. It hits a little different. So
yeah.
That being said, not that you understand why like I don't have the same like love for the movie.
Absolutely.
I like to hear you talk a little bit about like why it hit for you different.
Well, it was at a crucial time. I mean, I was 16, and during this time, it was February. Came out February 12th, 1988. I didn't see the movie until almost 89, toward 89. So I didn't see it when it first came out because, again, I mean, down here in Virginia, I was 16. I was a junior. I was in my junior year. Actually, either junior or sophomore year, probably might have been junior year. I just started, and I was working. I had no idea of anything related to apartheid other than what I heard in rap songs. I still didn't understand it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So for me, the biggest impact, and I'm gonna explain it to you. Like, okay, it was September. September they have like homecoming for colleges and stuff like that. My mom was at Virginia State, and she was getting her master's done. And when you're a student on the campus, you can get concert tickets. Me being in high school, me and my boy, my mom had asked, hey, you want to go see this concert? And EU was on tour, kind of like after the movie, after the success of the movie, trying to get some money and stuff. And he actually had, it's him and Kumo D had a concert on Virginia State campus in the auditorium and in the gymnasium. So for me, we went to that concert, and it was like, I'll always remember it because, again, I hadn't seen the movie yet, but everybody was talking about the song, the Bud, different things like that from EU. So I was like, all right, well, this is 16-year-old me. We in high school trying to venture out and whatnot. So we took the tickets.
Yeah.
My mom got us tickets. We went on campus, man, and here I am, 16 years old, high school kid, and actually stepping into school days, the whole persona thing of school days for a few hours. And it was like mind blowing to me. I had no idea about what I was going to do in college or anything like that. But going there and just being there for a few hours, seeing the activities and, seeing you perform and, interacting with the female class members and different stuff at going to the college, man, it was just like, I want to go to school. If this is what it's about, I want to go to college. Seriously. And after seeing the film, it just basically was the nail in the coffin for me. Like, yeah, I don't care if I'm freaking majoring in freaking mopping floors. I'm gonna be on campus somewhere. This is where I want to be at. So that was kind of like the intro to get me into like, man, and get me in the college mind, the college mindset and stuff like that. So, and again, the '80s was like, you had so many rappers that came out during that time period, man. Everything was just changing. And, especially like, within the black community and stuff like that. So this movie was basically like spot on, dead on for time as far as like being in the right time and everything. And it was just wonderful for me, man. Just wonderful.
Yeah. I like you're saying, man, I really feel like, I think both of us, how we feel about this movie is based on the time that it kind of hit our life.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure if I was 16 or 17 or getting ready to go to college or in college, like, man, this might be one of my favorite movies ever.
Oh yeah.
But it hit me when I was too young. I was too young to care about this movie at the time, and I wasn't living in a place that had like any black colleges. So like it just came and went, basically.
Right.
So yeah, I definitely feel you on your feelings, because that makes sense. That makes total sense.
Yeah. This is kind of like the movie that sparked my interest for, okay, what are we going to do as far as college is concerned, and where we want to go, and whatever the case may be, I'm going regardless. So yeah,
right.
But it was a great time. And Spike, he took enough time to get the details on like what would probably be going on during like homecoming, during on campus and stuff like that. And I can tell you everything is spot on, man. Dead spot on. So
yeah.
So who was your favorite character in the film? Like who were you drawn to the most?
All right.
A lot of people.
There's two. Right. So I actually kind of get down with Larry Fishburne's character. Yeah. Actually, for two main reasons. One, he was 100% pro-black. Now, I don't know that his approach was the best when it came to like his boys. What was the crew called? I forget, they had a name, but anyway,
the fellas.
Yeah. He basically wanted them to risk their education, their kind of work their whole life for.
Come on, y'all don't leave me hanging. Yeah, you need to lighten up, man.
For a cause, like they were down for the cause, but like, look, not at the cost of everything that my family's put behind me. There's got to be a balance there. That part aside, I got down with the fact that he was very pro-black, and this dude's my complexion. I ain't dark skinned, all right. And he had a dark skinned girlfriend. Whether he was doing that as like like a token or whatever the reason was, he was very pro-black, pro his message. He he was 100% about what he said he was, and like I can respect that. Whether I even agree with your cause or not, if you're 100% behind it, then I can respect it no matter what.
You gotta respect it, right?
Right. Not to mention the fact that he had a decent cause. I got down with the fact that he wasn't really with the fraternities and the sororities. So let me explain something about me. I have nothing against anyone who's in a fraternity, sorority. If that's what you want to do. I have nothing against it at all. But it has never been something that appealed to me. Like ever. I didn't want to go to college to begin with when I was in high school. I was like, I don't like school. Like I don't like school enough to pay to go to school. I did just enough in school to get by, and like I'm joining the military. I going to school for another 4 years or 5 or whatever. Like that was not something that no.
Yeah.
And have to pay. So no. That being said, like even as a younger person, I never understood the appeal of the fraternities and sororities. I understand why people want to do it. It was just like a personal thing. Like it's just never. I'm not a follow a group person.
Right.
And even when I joined the Army, like my wife can tell you, when she met me at Foot Locker, I met her. She was working at Foot Locker in Columbus, Georgia. Me and my roommate, who was a guy, he was a cat from New York, my boy Ant. We purposely tried not to look like we were in the military when we were out in the town.
Right.
Because I don't want to be. If you look like a group, people assume you're like that group, for good or bad. I never wanted to portray the image of like I'm definitely a soldier here. I just want to look like a regular person. So when she met me, and the first time I called her at home or whatnot, and I told her, I was stationed at Fort Benning. She was like, "What?" She said, "If I knew that when you walked in, I wouldn't have gave you my phone number."
Right.
So like, I know that like the fraternities, like you got to be down with the frat, and if I'm not down with everything that you're down with, then I ain't down with it.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna fake it. You know what I'm saying? So that whole thing, and plus I was always kind of awkward and nerdy anyway. So like, I don't know, they're always like the coolest guys or whatever, the guys who got all the girls in high school and all that, and like it just didn't appeal to me whatsoever. Like high school, I got friends that like they would go to parties and smoke some weed or whatever. Bro, I'd be like, nah, I'm good. Like that was me. That was seriously me. So the whole frat thing never appealed to me, which is why I can kind of get down with Dap's way of thinking.
Right.
So like I would have to say, I know I went all the way around the barn with that, but that's my reason. Like I kind of identify with Dap. And besides him, I got to give a special shout out to Samuel L. Jackson and his little cameo, the Jerry Curl crew.
Please, yo, missionaries. The Jerry Curl is popping shit. Ready for the world is popping shit.
I just love that scene. I love that scene. So yeah, that's my favorite character.
Yeah, this whole film, man, had a lot of isms in it. You know what I mean? You had classism, you had colorism, you had hair texturism. I mean, you name it. It was in this film. And as far as fraternity wise, man, I again like you, I was kind of like awkward and into my nerd lifestyle and stuff like that. I learned to I want to call it. I learned the skill of deception. Kind of fit in, you know what I'm saying? But I really wasn't in it either. So a lot of the stuff that I saw in the film, especially like a lot of the hazing that the Gamites were going through with the Gamma Phi Gamma people, a lot of that stuff, man, we were been fighting first day. I'm not doing it. Not doing it. Yeah, and I'm beating your ass straight up. So but like you said, it was more so like you saw it when the gamma rays had their little meeting, and they were talking about like when the gammas cross over and the guys become actual Gamma Phi Gamma fraternity members, that they're gonna have a party in their honor, saying that they made it over and stuff like that. And they were serious about the black and silver. You know what I'm saying? Right. That was their thing. And I mean, again, I understand it. the alphas or Qs or whatever fraternity in college, where these organizations are, like you said, spot on. You got to be all about the movement, or you're in the wrong spot. So a lot of the hazing and the stuff that the Gammites had to go through, man, it just rubbed me the wrong way. But I think that Spike brought that stuff up because it was needed to be seen.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of like the darker tones of college life.
Yeah.
With Vaughn's character, man, I was I respected what he was trying to do, but right in the beginning of the film, where you had like the president, Art Evans, point of the film, I loved the way he played his character because it was dead on. Man. I mean, he brought out the fact that Vaughn's character and the protesting that was going on was going to spook some of the investors, and it wasn't good for the college, basically because, again, like he was saying, that the need for black colleges, he felt had run its course. So, by allowing these things to take place on campus and disrupting classes and whatnot, it's going to spook people and they're going to pull their money. You know what I'm saying? So you're going to bring the college down by even trying to get involved in this stuff like that. So that's why he was hard on Vaughn when he pulled him in the office that one time after the game, after they got into the fight with the Gamma Rays at the game in bleachers. And again, I'm not saying that he was right, but it was needed, because for the future of the college, you can't have this shit on campus, man. You got people that's trying to be doctors and lawyers or whatever. You got a responsibility being on the board or whatnot to protect and preserve all these things. So he was spot on. Yeah. And also, I wanted to bring up the fact that that Julian's character, Big Brother Almighty, he basically was He was locked in, man. He, when you're part of a fraternity, a major fraternity, and I think he was like, he's the chapter head. Everything that the administration went with, you had to roll with it too. So he was basically locked in as the bad guy. Well, not really the bad guy, but he felt the need to protect and preserve the meaning of, what was going on as far as like protecting the integrity of the college, Yeah. So that's why him and Vaughn were always butting heads all the time. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So what was the character? What's the guy's name that played Dean Big Brother Almighty? Because I always butcher his name, man.
Giancarlo Esposito.
Esposito. Okay, Mr. Esposito.
Yeah.
Man, look, this guy, I love him, man.
He's always been a great actor.
I'm telling you, man, between him and Lawrence Fishburne, man, you would figure who was the A-list guys on Spike Squad at that time. And those guys, they just shine through the movie. Every single time you saw them, their lines are on point. The times that they had to freaking act, react for certain things, everything was just spot on, beautiful, man. I mean, I loved his character, man. Even though he kind of looked kind of grimy, but again, that was needed for me personally, because you want to see the darker sides of these things, man. Because you take away more at the end of the day.
That stupid ass hairdo he had. Every time I see it, I'm like, what is he doing with his hair? But them two, Larry Fishburne and Giancarlo Esposito, like they, from an actor level, they carry the movie.
Oh yeah,
like
definitely.
They chew up every scene they're in.
During the special features, I watched the special features on the Blu-ray, and there was a couple times I think that Esposito, pulled Larry aside and he was like, "Hey man, look, Spike gave me these lines, man, but I'm not saying this. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do something else." So they basically, what do you call it? What's the term I'm looking for?
They were improv.
Improv, yeah, they improv a few of the conversations between him and that, man. I thought that was beautiful because it came off just really raw. And the fact that Spike took the people, the Gamma Rays and then the fellas and stuff like that, and put them in different areas, like in different hotels, so that there would be a natural friction, between the characters on screen. It really showed through. I thought that was freaking brilliant, man. That was, for that time period,
and the fight
was brilliant.
The fight at the step show was, they've gone on record to say that like that was a real altercation that happened because there was some actual animosity between the groups because of how they were treated differently on set from Spike, who did it on purpose. But like that fight, like that actually happened, and they just kept some of it in the movie.
Right, because during an interview with Tisha Campbell, she said like, when the fellas were getting off stage and they were pulling on, they pulled on her hair and stuff like that. That's when the fight broke out, and the guys were taking it seriously. She was like, "Wait a minute, they really fighting?" So I thought that was
right.
like, wow, that was like one of the moments. You know what I'm saying? So I thought that was cool as hell.
Yeah.
Even though, again, you figure I don't think Spike had any malice in his decision. He wanted to really bring like that genuine friction between the two sides, and it really, it worked out in his favor big time. So
rewatching the movie for you, do you feel like it was more accurate now or less accurate? Or I'm talking about in terms of its portrayal of Black college life. Did you feel like looking at it now, you're like, maybe they embellished a little bit, or like, oh, it's spot on?
For that time period, yeah, I think that it was dead spot on for the 80s. It was spot on because, again, I mean, as far as like colorism and stuff, I mean, we all know that. I mean, you're always looking for the red bones and stuff like that. I mean, that stuff was like, that stuff was going on for years, even before the movies. That was just something that, that dudes do, So the colorism, and as far as like the animosity between like, the jigaroos and the wannabes, again, that was taking place in school, like in high school, girls were talking about each other's hair. That ain't real. That forehead, different stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, he just basically embellished all that, piled it on. You know what I mean? And I'm sure it was probably even more, within college. You know what I'm saying? Because it wasn't a high school. It wasn't a high school thing. It was a college thing. So everybody was on an independent thing because you're in college. So it's probably at 2 levels up as far as like the friction.
Right.
So, but I think he was spot on
Okay.
for 88. He was spot on. Yeah, I think I took a lot more home from the movie, now being an adult, than I did when I watched it in the beginning. Because back in the 80s and the 90s, you watch and I was like, okay, yeah. But now going back and revisiting and watching what took place and looking at the different characters and seeing their sides of things in the story, man, I took home a lot more. One particular part that a lot of people, I remember back in the day, a lot of people were clowning the ending, the wake up part, and I thought that, for me, that was a crucial part for the film at the end. It's more so like, in the end of the day, everybody's the same, regardless of what you think, what kind of issues that you have, In the morning, early in the morning, when everybody gets up, we look in the mirror, we're all the same. So, in a nutshell, I think that was just like, man, wake up.
Yeah.
This shit, all this mess that we doing, the unity side of everything is crucial. All this other shit, nothing, And I got that. I was like, yeah. And I mean, you saw Julian's face, at the end, he was just like, tears in his eyes, like, he had seen the Holy Grail.
Sweating and everything,
and I was just like, at the end, I was like, yeah, brother, you see it now, don't you? So, but as far as like, do you think it was a full-blown, musical, or you thought it was a movie with musical elements in it? What did you think?
When I started watching it, right, and the first musical number that happens, I was like, oh, wait, this movie's a musical? As I'm watching the movie, though, there's really, I consider a musical is like when the actual cast are singing and dancing throughout the movie. And that only really happens, like twice, if I remember right, where like the cast is actually performing. But then there are musical performances by actual artists in a movie, like EU and Phyllis Hyman.
Definitely.
So
Wonderful
I don't consider
performance.
I don't consider it a musical, because I can name you on one hand how many musicals I will sit through. I don't like musicals. Typically.
Right.
Little Shop of Horrors I liked, but Tisha Campbell. This movie is just it's a movie with musical elements in it, and I would consider it a full blown musical. Although like the the salon scene with like the jigaboos and the
Madame
wannabes.
Riri's.
Yeah, like that song, I was like, right. I'm like, I can skip this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not into musicals like that. So
Right.
yeah,
right.
I would just consider it a movie with musical elements and not necessarily a musical.
Yeah, same here. I agree. A lot of people were to argue that it wasn't musical. I don't think it was enough. They had musical elements in it, but it wasn't musical. But Madame Riri's part, I think, was kind of decent because it was kind of like the introduction to the beef that the friction that Jane and Rachel had, in their groups, and as far as like the female aspect of what the issues were with, between light skinned and dark skinned females and straight hair and nappy hair. I thought that the choreographing for that whole musical part there was great. I think that Tisha and the girls, man, they just knocked it out, man. Everybody that was on screen was dancing and performing in that part, which shows that they were well versed in multiple things other than acting. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Tisha was knocking it out the box. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Jasmine
They were
Guy,
talented,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? Yeah, man. Yeah. And I mean, she basically was the one that had, I would say, that would have like a lot more of the experience because she come off of doing Little Shop of Horrors. And then I think the Little Shop of Horrors came out, 86, 87? So going into this, man, Spike picked her. That was that banging for her to be the youngest person in the group of girls. Man, she was the youngest person there. Yeah, because this was made in '88, so she had, I think, the most experience as far as like for the music aspect of it. The other scene that I thought was really good was when the girls were singing at the coronation. They had that song, "I Don't Want to Be Alone Tonight" with the four girls, with Tisha and Jasmine and the other two girls. Man, just freaking! I thought that the intro of that, when the guy was announcing them, Black Excellence, Black and Silver. I mean, bro, that part there, man. And he had the girls up in the bleachers, you know what I'm saying, all the Gamma girls and stuff like that. That was beautiful to me, man. I was like, oh shit. That was awesome. That was awesome. One of my parts, man. But as far as like the other elements, the other musical elements of it, man, EU had this thing with with the butt and the song "The Butt," and that kind of like launched him in his career, because I think he came out with his album shortly after that. And I told you, he had the concert at Virginia State, which I think Kumo D came on first, and then I think after that the next 2 hours was all EU, man. It was a long concert. I remember it being long, man. Seriously. So, but again, that song freaking launched a whole thing for Go-Go, because I don't think Go-Go was really popular until after this. Junkyard. I think Junkyard's out of Tappahannock down here, out of Tappahannock, Virginia. But I wasn't really a Go-Go head until after this, man. I got into listening to Chuck Brown and the Soul Searchers, and I mean, a lot of the times they had mixtapes that were down in the record shops down in Petersburg, because I told you my mom was getting her master's, so me and my boy was always going down there on the weekends visiting my mom, and we'd go down there and get the mixtapes, the Go-Go mixtapes from the record stores and stuff like that. So that was my introduction to Go-Go as well, because I didn't know anything about it till this movie.
Yeah. No, I still like. I never got into Go-Go, but that was like my introduction too.
As far as film wise, man, I think it was done well. And again, like I said, besides the main foundation of what we spoke about in the beginning, there was just a lot of elements of different like social issues that we had and that we have in the community. And I think that they were well addressed. And I don't think that this film should have sparked any misfeelings for anything that was presented, because it was needed. Because again, a lot of these things in this film that I saw, during the film, I didn't know anything about. And after the film, I took them home and it got the wheels going. You know what I mean? So I think it was needed, and it was generally brought across really decent, man. I thought so.
What I wanted to mention, man, is the connection with this movie and the show. I can't think of it right now. Different World. Jeez, I'm tripping. Do you feel like Bill Cosby directly ripped this off?
No, because when I was watching the special edition of the movie, all of this stuff was kind of like taking place at the same time. So when Spike was kind of getting his cast together, and there was word that the movie was, being done and whatnot, I think Cosby's people were already trying to scout out people that were going to be on the show. So I don't feel that it was a ripoff. I think that it kind of like all of this stuff was happening at the same time, and it just kind of like, you know, it was the right place at the right time for everything. So, you figure Cosby and his camp didn't really have to look for people, because all he had to do was look at the talent that was in this film, and everything was right there. You pick, like a shopping list. You pick who you want. So that's why Jasmine and Kadeem and a lot of the guys from the Gamma Phi Gamma actually got into the show. You know what I'm saying? So I thought it was great. I think that Spike actually had something. He had to jump on everything, but I think that because of that, it kind of made it easier for things to happen after the fact. That's the spinoff with a different world. A different world went how many seasons? I can't even remember. I know it went for a long time.
Well, I'm not even sure.
But I don't think
quite a
Cosby
few
ripped them
after.
off, no.
Yeah. And Different World started in 88 or 89?
I think it was probably like 89.
87. Okay.
Oh, 87.
87 to 93.
Okay. So you figure Spike had started the movie when it came out.
Yeah.
The movie didn't come out until 88. So again, all of this stuff took place while the movie was being made. You see what I'm saying? So that kind of solid, it solids everything in what I just said. So it wasn't him stealing it because he had started before the movie was even released. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, because that means he was filming this movie in 87 when this show started.
Right, when they were getting it together.
Yeah, it's around the same time. That's weird, yeah.
Right place, right time.
Right, exactly. What I wanted to ask you a question. What is the lasting legacy of this movie for you?
Wow. Take a look at it as far as going to it with an open mind. A lot of these things that Spike brought up can be applied today. So it's something, it's a period piece for the time for 1988, but also, you can look at some of these things, some of these elements and problems that, were taking place and they're still going on today. So it's kind of one of those things where, like, if the light bulb didn't go off, before, you rewatch it and it might go off now type deal. It's just a lot to it. And I think that it was, all of these problems were shown to us, with a decent way. You know what I mean? Again, a lot of the hazing from colleges and stuff like that, the college stuff, that stuff is still going on today. The fraternities do it. A lot of the elitism, with the fraternities being Greek, different stuff like that. I didn't really understand all of that, but I can understand the fact of you thinking that if you're part of this fraternity, you're part of an elite group. I think all fraternities kind of do that. You know what I mean? So I understand that part of it too. So a lot of the stuff, in this film, it'll just help you break down and have a better understanding of these things. If you watch it, especially if you're young, like I was 16.
Yeah.
I mean, I had no idea what the hell was going on until, I got older and I rewatched the film several times. I think I watched School Days, man. I can tell you at least about 20 or 30 times, man. And I mean, just throughout the years, watching, doing parties and different stuff like that. So just watching it more, I was able to pick out more things and understand more stuff. So, yeah. But what I wanted to bring up was the fact that Bill Lee, which is Spike's dad was kind of a jazz man, and he did a lot of the musical score throughout the film, and also wrote the song that Phyllis Hyman performed in the gymnasium. So I thought it was cool. He did a lot of the music for the movie.
And the movie does have a very unique sound. It's got that. Spike's always been a little different,
right?
Right. And for me, like, I can see, this is his second movie, and you can see how he progressed with his filmmaking. Right, from the first one, yeah. Right, and by the time he got to Malcolm X, man, like he had kind of nailed his style. Right. He kind of just had it down packed. But yeah, with this one, it's an early movie, so I think it's, for a lot of people, it's gonna be one of those movies that you either you can tolerate it or you
Yeah.
love it. You probably won't
Yeah.
hate it, but you can kind of tolerate it or you love it. And
Right.
for me, I'm more on the tolerate side. Like it's pretty good movie, but it's not something that appealed to me to the point where I want to rewatch it. I can rewatch Malcolm X over and over and over again.
Oh yeah, definitely. Malcolm was.
But School Days, just yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah.
And imagine if because Spike liked to use a lot of the same actors in his movies.
Yeah,
and one of
definitely.
these days we're going to do a spotlight just on Spike Lee. But
Oh yeah, definitely.
imagine
Okay.
if and I don't know if this is true or not, but imagine if he asked Lawrence Fishburne to play Malcolm X.
Yeah.
Because you think about like actors, right? Lawrence Fishburne, similar complexion and everything. Like, I think he would have done a fantastic job as Malcolm X. But like, knowing what we know and the way that Denzel played him, like,
Right.
it's hard to imagine anyone else playing.
Yeah.
But I can see Larry Fishburne playing that part,
Yeah, I think Larry would have been,
especially the character like that.
oh yeah, yeah. Larry would have been his Malcolm X would have probably been a little bit more grittier, man. Seriously, because Larry's got a way of coming across in certain times. Because you saw it in like Deep Cover and the different films that he did. It's just he's got this edge to him. Where I'm not saying that Denzel doesn't have it, but it's a different edge. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you look at not to go off on a tangent, but you look at King of New York when Lawrence played Jimmy Jim. One of Frank White's main trigger man. I can't see nobody else doing that part but him. He just
Right.
fit perfect.
Right.
He's got an edge to him that I think that those types of films, he really fit that part. If you need an edgy guy, seriously. So Denzel's more smooth.
Yeah. He's
and I
a little
think
more menacing.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Denzel's a little bit more smoother, and he's a little bit more of kind of like a conversationalist. So it's kind of like that's why his Malcolm came off really decent. It was what we needed.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would have been definitely an edgier Malcolm. Definitely. So, wanted to bring up the fact that we already did a little something on Ernest Dickerson, the cinematographer for Spike.
Yeah.
Ernest has been behind the camera helping Spike pretty much throughout his career. And Ernest is he's got. Wow, what hasn't he done? He did. He's behind the Walking Dead stuff. I didn't even know he was doing anything for the TV show. Was it Once Upon a Time? Remember the show Sleepy Hollow that kind of like had a couple seasons and then it stopped. He was doing that. He was doing Dexter. He helped with Bones. The Snoop Dogg movie, the horror movie. We talked about him in Demon Knight. He did Juice. So he's got a huge career as far as like cinematography, man. And I don't think that Spike Lee's films would, have that crispness and that certain look that identifies with Spike without Ernest being behind the scene. Yeah. So and there's a few other people in the film that were kind of like co-producers. Let's see, Grace Blake and Monty Ross were co-producers in School Days here. Ruth Carter.
We can't forget James Bond III too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He's got a role in the film.
Death by Temptation. Yeah.
Death by Temptation.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that because I forgot about him. Yeah, he played the geek, the nerd of the fellas. So Ruth Carter played the costume design for this film, and she did all the costumes for Black Panther 1 and 2. She did the Coming to America stuff. She did the Roots.
Yeah.
Remember they redid Roots in 2016, and she also did the costumes for Shaft, the Samuel Jackson one. So she was definitely in there doing her thing. It's just so many people that were involved in this film, man, that now they've gone on to just do incredible works after this. So it's kind of like the humble beginnings for a lot of people, man.
We talked about this offline, but this movie is like rabbit hole material. Going to so many different rabbit holes, talking about different people that were involved in this production and different things about the movie. Like there's so many branching paths you can go on. So for anybody who happens to be watching, there's something we didn't touch on in this movie. It's not because it's not something we want to talk about. it would just be a 3-hour video.
Oh yeah.
With this movie, I feel like I do remember reading that Spike had a friend or something or a friend or a cousin that died in college, and that's what kind of sparked him to make this movie. Because he had, I don't want to say he had a negative view of like fraternities and everything, but whatever happened kind of sparked his making this movie, and you can kind of see that there's faults. People have faults on both sides.
Yeah.
But you can see that it's skewed towards the frats and sororities are kind of the villains of the movie. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, and it's not like overt. It's not overt. It's like they're just being what they are, but it's not portrayed in the best light.
Right. Right.
And it's like, it's one of those movies that, like, if you have an opinion about fraternities and sororities, it will only, like a negative opinion, it will only kind of reinforce that.
Yeah, definitely.
This movie isn't going to encourage you to want to be in a frat or a sorority, in my opinion.
Yeah, you remember that part where Dap and Rachel were talking. Remember that he had told her that she had told him that she was going to try for Delta.
Pledging Delta next semester.
You what?
I'm going to pledge Delta next semester.
And he really wasn't supporting her at all because he had an issue with it. And my thing is, I'm thinking that he probably felt that way because, with his protesting and stuff like that, he kind of felt maybe that the fraternities were just another system, the same one that they're protesting on right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, getting behind, just another way of control in a way. And nothing can come good of it, so to speak, because it only just makes the isms even more, which I get that, I understand that. Yeah. And, but at the end, I think that he might have lightened up just a little bit, but I still think that he kept the his same mentality throughout the film, though. Maybe lighten up just a little bit at the end.
Man, listen, like I said, we can go down 100 rabbit holes, but for folks watching, we are absolutely going to do some actor, producer, cinematographer, stuntman profiles.
Definitely.
Here in the near future, because there's an infinite number of movies to talk about. Yeah. But for every movie, there's 100 people involved in it. And some of these people are involved in some of the same movies. Like I'm not sure how many movies we've talked about. It's not a crazy amount. But just by coincidence, we've talked about some of the same people in these movies. Because they've worked on, more than one movie that we've talked about. So it's one of those things where it's we need to focus on, instead of mentioning this person as like, hey, this person was involved in production. Well, hey, let's talk about that person, because this person was involved in production in like 12 movies that we love.
Right. So who is this?
And exactly. They don't get enough of that credit. Right. They don't get enough of that credit. Right. Like we talked about Action Jackson recently, and the stuntman, I can't remember the brother's name right now on the top of my head, but
Bob,
that dude's been in a ton of stuff. Right. He's been in a ton of stuff, and he's a really important black stuntman that if you never looked him up, you never know who he was.
Right.
So that's we got to give these people their flowers too, man. Not just the movies, but we got to give some of these people their flowers. So y'all look forward to that, and that's something we got to focus on a little bit. So we got a lot to come, but anyway, any parting words, Alex?
If this is your first time seeing a Spike film, or if it's one of your first Spike films, check them all out. Spike's definitely got a different eye when it comes to certain things, social issues and different stuff, and just take it with a grain of salt. Look at his films with an open mind, and take home what you can take home from them. And like I said, I love the films. Everything he's done, I've loved it. So, and I encourage anybody else to just look at his films and check them out and enjoy them just as much as I do.
Once again, This is another movie. We talked about School Daze today. So
School Daze.
this is a rare occasion. This is a rare occasion where the movie just didn't hit for me the way it hit for Alex. You know, but that's the beauty of movies, y'all. You don't have to love them all.
Right.
But there's things about them that you can appreciate. If you want to sit down and talk about it, there's something about it we can appreciate. I appreciate a lot of things in this movie, even though it wasn't really my cup of tea.
Right.
Yeah, y'all just stay tuned, y'all. We'll be back with another one, and please keep watching. Thanks for the support. Thanks for watching my Cujo video and watching us talk about Action Jackson and The Last Dragon. You know, I really appreciate all the comments, all the views, and we'll try to keep it coming. So,
See you on the next one.
See y'all next time.